right, it is April 1st and it is 7 p.m. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just so you know, I rushed through that to see how fast Mr. Miller could rush. He is the youngest, so I expected better.
He's in really good shape, so he's all right.
Before we approve the agenda, I want to make a disclaimer. We have a few young Tempe Elementary people in the audience, and I am so grateful to see them. And please know that we are okay with kids being kids. So that's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. I was that kind of mom that stressed. I'm letting you know, don't be that mom. You're okay. And we're happy to have you all. Thank you, tall ones and short ones. All right. Item 104, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Item 201, approval modification of minutes from the March 25th Governing Board meeting and study session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain. I was not present, so 4 with 1 abstention. Item 301, open call to the public. I do not see any blue cards tonight, so we will continue to the next agenda item. Item 401, approval of consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes unanimously. I'd like to thank the Aris Foundation and Co-Drone EDU for their donations to our students. And I will now turn it over to Chief Operating Officer and Assistant Superintendent Michael Mangini to introduce administrators that we just approved.
Thank you, Madam President. Michael makes me sound like I'm in trouble, so thank you. All right, Madam President, members of the board, we have 3 individuals tonight that we're going to highlight and welcome to our TD3 family. I'll start with our first one. Tonight you approved Susan Eastwood to the position of Project Manager for Literacy, and I'll share a little bit about her background. Susan has nearly 30 years of teaching experience, along with several years as a literacy coach, interventionist, and most recently as a teaching and learning coach in our district. Susan's colleagues praise her for exceptional expertise in reading instruction and her commitment to going above and beyond for students and families. So congratulations, Susie, and thank you for continuing to choose and grow in TD3.
Thank you so much for your trust in me and your confidence. I have seen in my 30 years of experience how strong literacy instruction can impact kids, and I'm looking forward to this role and working alongside Tempe district employees and teachers and supporting students. And I wanted to thank my 2 sons. My husband couldn't be here, but my 2 sons are here with me tonight. Yeah. So thank you very much.
All right. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, tonight you also approved Nicholas Gratzel to the position of principal at FEES, and I'll share a little bit about his background. Nicholas holds a bachelor's degree in art education from Illinois State University, close, Cindy, and a master's in educational leadership from Arizona State University. Nicholas has nearly 20 years of teaching experience and years in administration, and most recently has served in the assistant principal, or as assistant principal in the Humboldt Unified School District. Nick's colleagues have shared that he builds strong, trusting relationships with students and families through respectful communication, thoughtful listening, and meaningful follow-through, creating a supportive environment where students feel seen and valued. Congratulations, Nick, and welcome to the TD3 family.
I just want to say thank you for bringing me on the team. I'm really excited to be a part of this district. I've been kind of following you guys from a distance for a while, and I'm excited to see what you're doing here. I know there's a lot of new things with fees that are coming, and I am really honored to be a part of that and to be the one that you entrusted with building this really cool program. So thank you very much for that. And I want to thank my beautiful and supportive wife who's here with me tonight. Couldn't do it without her. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, the third person that I will introduce tonight that you approved to the position of Head of Athletics. Tonight you approved Bianca Todd, and I'll share a little bit about her background. Bianca earned her bachelor's degree in special education and elementary education from Arizona State University, as well as a master's degree in educational administration from Grand Canyon University. Bianca has served as a teacher, dean, and most recently as principal in the Chandler Unified School District. Bianca is skilled in program development, staff leadership, and data-driven instruction with a strong emphasis on building systems that support both academic and athletic excellence. She's experienced in managing complex schedules, staff, and tailoring programs to meet the needs of all students. Congratulations, Bianca, and welcome back home to the TD3 family, and I'll let her explain that one.
Thank you, Madam President, the board, Dr. Driscoll, for the opportunity. Like he said, welcome back. I am born, raised Tempe. Feels great to be back at Southern and Rural. Went to Meyer, graduated from Marcos de Niza, so love all of that. Truly, athletics are a huge passion of mine. It's been a part of my life my entire life. Go Devils. Played soccer for ASU. So really, I'm just excited to build a program for you guys that we are all proud of, supporting kids. Athletics is such a big part of not only the athletic piece, but academic too, and meeting that whole child. So excited for that. Thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to working with all of you. I'm also here with my husband, my whole boy crew here. My husband, Patrick, and then I have 3 sons. This is James, this is Henry, and Luke. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGeady. All right, item 501, Celebrate Excellence. I'll turn it over to Dr. Driscoll.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to celebrate. For the 3rd consecutive year, Tempe Elementary School District has been voted the #1 elementary school district in the state by Ranking Arizona. As a public opinion poll, this honor highlights the trust our community places in us and underscores our commitment to supporting families throughout their educational journey. As a top 4 school in the Valley Readers Program, Wood Elementary earned a celebratory assembly hosted by the Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury Foundation. Through a Q&A with Suns legend Mark West, a performance from the Valley Suns dancers, and an all-star teacher dance competition, and top reader recognition, the Wood community had a blast celebrating their amazing reading accomplishments. Exciting update, and I got texts from the event. As previously shared, Tempe Elementary Schools was well represented at Saturday's State Invention Convention with approximately 150 students showcasing their creativity and problem-solving skills. The district achieved remarkable success across several categories. 9 teams secured top 3 finishes within their respective grade levels. 9 individual students have been invited to compete at the National Invitation Convention, and 5 have been named alternates. Tempe Elementary was honored with the Sparkplug Award, recognizing our excellence in district-wide implementation of Invention Convention projects. Congratulations. Meet Fuller Elementary's newest published authors. Ms. Finneran's 3rd grade classroom worked together to publish their very own book, Falcon's Voice, a haiku collection. Every student in the class contributed their own original writing, hand-drawn illustrations to the book. Last Friday, the class cracked open their books together, hosting a publishing party where these young writers took to the stage to read their original work aloud for the very first time. Congratulations to these creative Falcons. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this evening.
All right, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for the governing board members to reaffirm their top 5 priorities to the Arizona School Board Association Legislative Committee for consideration. All right, so hopefully y'all did your homework. Because we have, is it 6 categories? 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, excuse me, all right. Yeah, they added at least one section.
Rule stuff.
Yeah. Let me find what we did last year, because we did that last time and that was very helpful. Yes. Okay, so last year, we chose as our top 5 priorities, repeal the constitutional aggregate expenditure limit via legislative referral to the voters, which is still on there at the very bottom of the left column. Give districts the authority to provide affordable housing options to faculty and staff based on the local housing market, which is on the right-hand column of that top category. And then in the red category, we chose oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally elected school boards, including their authority to approve curriculum, which is on the second column of that red category. And then our fourth one was in the purple category, repeal and replace Prop 203 with research-based bilingual education, reform English language learner models of instruction to increase integration of English learners, and give schools flexibility and resources to administer them. That is in the first column of the purpley blue category. Then in the orange, we chose as our last one, repeal any program that gives funds for private schools, vouchers, empowerment scholarship accounts, and private school subsidies, school tuition organizations, and prevent any future expansion. And that is the second bullet of that, what do we call that? Rust orange category. All right, so that's where we were last year. Anybody feeling as cynical as I was when I was going through it? All right, I'd like to open up for discussion. Do we have any comments? Should we go category by category? Or do you guys want to do an overall? Okay, let's go by category. Let's do it in reverse order. So federal advocacy. Anybody have a bullet point in that one? At the very bottom, green. Chartreuse.
Oh, yeah, but you did, because we just renewed this, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, actually. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so when I go to our events where we get to meet school districts from all over the state, I like to sit at the rural table because we know the situations that we have here, right? And so I like to listen, and to advocate for maintenance and improvement of bus routes on tribal and federal land seems very like, what, really? Is this a problem? It's a huge problem for them. And the buses are taking a major beating when they do this. And some of the buses can't even get to the students because the roads, and especially with some of the weather activities, and Mr. Lemon probably know and understand a lot about this, it's very preventative to getting kids to school or to kids to school on time. And then fully funded Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, I have put both of those at like critical and crucial. So of course, when we go through all of this, everyone, I check off everything and say that, yes. So that's what we're talking about, the rage-ish situation. But that is where I'm feeling based upon the experience of those, because I don't have that rural experience, right? We couldn't even possibly put ourselves there. But I do have the ability to sit and listen to those, and these are some major issues that they're having. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ewers. Mr. Thierry.
Thank you, Madam President. So this document that we have, it says 2026 Political Agenda Priority Issues, and there's 50 issues on it. and we're trying to narrow this down to 5. So that there's way more than 50 issues. There's, hundreds of issues, but they have 50 on here, and we're trying to narrow it down to 5. So there's some things on here about like JROTC. There are things on here about, school districts having full flexibility in how we spend money. I mean, there's just so many things on here, but I just want to make sure everybody knows when we go through here and we advocate for specific things, it's not that we're anti any of these other 45 things. It's just that we are being tasked with picking 5 of these. So, and there's 7 different groups that we're going through here. So we're going to leave out at least 2 of them, maybe 3 or 4. So if I appreciate you bringing that up, Ms. Ewers. It's just that there's going to be a lot of things on here that we don't end up not on our list. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Terry. I do want to say that I've noticed, and I apologize for this, Mr. Terry likes to have the anticipatory set always, and you tend to do that for the audience, and I appreciate that you do that, but I need to start doing it as well. So thank you for modeling that. But I also wanted to say that we do not need to have a bullet in individual categories. We literally could choose all 5 from one category. So it's whatever we want to do. And I would like to echo the sentiment about federal advocacy for the improvement of bus routes on tribal and federal land. The main reason for that is not just what you have cited in terms of just poor road maintenance, but I've been out in the Gila River Indian community several times in the last few months and learning a lot about tribal law, Department of Interior, all of those rules that, anyways, I could go on a soapbox about that. But the fact that education is not allowed to be offered in a public setting beyond 8th grade. So when they go to high school, their high school choices are highly limited based off of either the private parochial school that has a campus on the lands, or the local charter school, which would be near it, or the public schools that are near. But very rarely do you have buses going in to provide options for students. And in a state that we talk about school choice and how critical that is, and parents who want to have options, we forget that families in rural areas or in areas that have less transportation options also want choices for their kids. And so that's why I would put 2 tally marks by that one for us. And my pen is dying. Thank you. All right, so let's go up to unless anybody has anything else to say about federal advocacy, let's go to the bright orange, school safety and security. I would say this is hunter orange for safety, and they chose that specifically. Ms. Ewers, go ahead.
So my top pick of this collection is to provide funding to individual districts to implement locally directed research-based school safety programs, mental health and well-being initiatives. Sorry, this is the first one. Our district is concentrating on this often, and we have a school safety program, and at times we are limited on what we're able to provide or even talk to our students about, and local control, when we get to that too, makes this a very important part of that. So some of this may be encompassing in one, so that's why I'll give it 1 notch. How about that?
Anybody else for hunter orange? Mr. Terry.
Thank you, Madam President. So I was at the meeting last year when we were revising this, and this, on the right-hand side of this was split up into 2. The first one talks about increased self-harm and violence in our schools, and the second one specifically talks about guns in our schools. Many of us have worked in schools for a long time. If there's a fight on campus, we deal with it. Pepper spray, there's all kinds of violence that can happen on campus. A gun on campus is something else. It's a completely different situation. It's a completely different conversation. It's a completely different level of fear. It's just something that there's not anything that we can do here. That has to come from a federal level. It has to come from a state level. We're over here cutting a lot of programs, and we're spending millions of dollars installing things like bulletproof glass and installing things like metal detectors and weapons detectors and whatnot. And it's just such a huge, huge waste of money. Our budget would be fine if we didn't have to pay for those things. If we could use that money to keep our schools open, our district would be in a much better financial shape. So I'm going to draw attention to that second from the top on the right. Arizona school boards call upon all state, federal, tribal, and local officials to address the causes and impact of increased gun violence directed at K-12 schools.
Got it, thank you, you've noted it. Seeing no other lights, I highlighted fund programming to engage and support families and caregivers in culturally relevant and appropriate ways. Multiple reasons why, but the main one would be that this is advocacy at the state level. Federal level already requires it, and all federal monies that are granted to school districts and states, it's required to have parent engagement activities and events, but the state doesn't have any, to my knowledge, any requirements on that. And I believe that if we want to solve almost everything, single thing on this list, we need to engage families and teach them how to support their children. Okay, so seeing no other lights, let's go to Rose Art Red. Any choice on that one? It's a faded red, yeah, okay. It's yours.
I'm going to put a 0.5 point on this because I think there's some that are a little bit more, that I need to concentrate more on, but protect rural and remote school districts from inequitable impact due to formula adjustments, including transportation, which again makes this one and that one at a 2.5 if you put them together. I'm just explaining my math logic.
Of course. That's called school board math, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else for Rose Art Red? Okay, now to, I don't know, Sienna?
Bing.
Yes, Miss Yours.
Roll on this one. Okay, so we chose this last year, and I'm going to put a strong emphasis on it this year, but I'm also going to bring something up. So the repeal any program that gives funds for private schools, vouchers, which are empowerment scholarship accounts, and private school subsidies, school tuition organizations, and prevent any future expansion. I wanted to say that out loud as I am meeting with families and community members. Empowerment scholarship accounts, people don't understand it. They don't even know it's happening. And then when they hear that we have millions up to $1 billion being transferred from our pool of money to go to that, they're disgusted. And this is good because now it's becoming conversation at the dinner table and people cannot believe that it's actually really happening, and it's happening. So I still have it on the top of the list from last year, but I also want to bring something that goes with it. Increase public school tax credit donation limits to match those allowed for private schools. I need the community to understand that when you file your taxes, if you owe a state tax, you are allowed to, as a single person, pay us $200, as a family, pay us $400, which decreases your liability to the state. If you want to support a private school, you are allowed to deduct $3,000, not $400, $3,000 from what you owe to the state, and it goes to the private school. You're thinking, wow, that seems pretty inequitable, right? Absolutely. So we're already in a deficit. Then we have people who are getting empowerment scholarships. Then they're allowed to have their neighbors and friends give another $3,000. And what it's doing is this tax credit situation is helping a lot of children, which is good. It helps people who wouldn't regularly be able to go to music programs at NAU, or to go and play music at Knott's Berry Farm, or to participate in a science project, or to beef up our PACE funding, or we can apply it to all of those things. The issue is, though, at the same time, when you don't pay the state that, districts other that are not necessarily as supported as ours is, get none of those funds because those funds have been deducted there. So if we really, as a state, want to look at how we're funding schools, this whole category is inequitable, and it's basically wrong, and it's not helping us create a good base for us to have productive children who are able to be learning in their environment. It does help a higher class. It was designed that way. I'm just gonna put it on the table. So those two go hand in hand for me. And the empowerment scholarship accounts, Dr. Driscoll, I am gonna ask because there are a few of our employees who didn't understand it. And I know we have talked about, when we come back to school this next year, having a, how are your schools funded? How are you paid? It's very important to talk about the pool of money that's also being sucked out of the system without transparency. We are a transparent board. We are elected by our community to represent them and let you know where we're spending our money and what we're doing. This system does not even offer that and does not require that.
Okay, Ms. Years, just so I know I got this right, you did the repeal any program and then the bullet point underneath it?
I did the last one.
The last one, okay, the tax credit, got it.
Madam President, I just want to make sure you want us to include the ESAs and that into the financial. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lemon,
Thank you, Madam President. I support the repeal any program that gives public funds to blah, blah, blah. And so I would go with that. But also, I think we're not on a level playing field because we have to report things. We spend a lot of money doing audits and others do not. And there's been very little recovery from those misspent monies, whether it's ESA programs or others. So I would think it's important, just for a fairness standpoint, that at least we all abide by the same rules.
so the fourth bullet point, or the third bullet point,
The first one and the second one.
first, got it. Thank you, Mr. Lemon, we got the first and the second noted for you. Mr. Cherry.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Ewers for bringing that up. The ESC thing is just infuriating for a number of reasons. I'm not actually, I don't like the tax credit system the way that it is because you can be too specific. You can say, this is to Mr. Thierry's choir program. That tends to benefit your wealthier schools more because those parents can part with $200 or $400 for a longer amount of time. That's just been my experience. I wish it were, you can just dedicate it to, the fund for the state, then it just goes to public schools that way, but I'm not governor, it's not gonna happen this year. But that, regardless of how money's being allocated, why are we giving, what would you say, 3,000 instead of 400 to a private school? That's just absurd. That's just absolutely absurd. And I just wanna remind everyone, we voted on Prop 305 back in 2018, and it lost 65-35. The people have already spoken about vouchers. And I think we don't realize just how much of a drubbing 65% is in politics. That's about as good as it gets. I mean, nationally, super left California, Kamala Harris couldn't get 60% of the vote. And super right Texas, Donald Trump couldn't get 60% of the vote. Super blue Vermont that had Democrat socialist Bernie Sanders, she only got 63% of the vote there. 65% of a vote is an absolute drubbing. The citizens don't want it. And yet we're just competing with this all the time with these ESA vouchers. And it just takes so much of our money. And again, it's one of those things where our budget would be fine. So if it seems like an outsized priority for us, it's because it's had outsized consequences. So, thank you.
Mr. Terry, can I mark you down for the second bullet point? The repeal, any program that gives funds, that one?
Yes,
Or
thank you.
is it the tax credit one?
I think that the second one is more broad, so I'm going to go for the second one.
Got it. Okay, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. As we go through these, I'm keeping in mind just the 5 that we chose last year, and as we're going through it, it's like, am I trying to replace one of the 5 that we already have? Because it's like, as we've already stated, all of these are so good, let's do all the things. We can't do all the things, so I'm like, what am I taking out to put in? And so I'm trying to pick and choose, but as we've gotten to this thing, I want to keep the ASA one, so I just wanted to keep my, 5th cent that we've all said, keep the ESA point as one of our 5.
Okay, so for the Sienna category, I have 4, and I'm adding a 5th one from me to repeal any program that gives funds for private schools. I actually want to add to Ms. Ewer's explanation about how this all works, that even through federal grants, we're required to give money to private schools. It's a requirement that we have to set aside, and we have to give money to kids who go to private schools that are from our boundary areas, and there's nuances to it, but they do get a cut of those federal funds that come to the state, to the districts. So they're getting funds from multiple avenues, and these are families who have chosen to go to a school that we don't have, no taxpayer has any say on what they're teaching, and no taxpayer even has the right to go and review the curriculum or any of that you have full rights to do here in the public schools. And I want to say, I tend to tell too many stories, but I'm going to tell this story. My husband and I were driving on a trip, and I got fired up about vouchers, and he was like, explain to me why there's so much fervor behind this. And I finally just said, teachers, we're all about metaphors. I said, okay, look at this road. Is it a good road? He's like, yeah. I'm like, no. Look at the road. Like, is the paint perfect? Have I said this story before? No. Okay. I've told other people, so I wasn't quite sure. Is paint perfect? Are there potholes? Is the shoulder starting to erode? He goes, oh yeah, I can see that. I said, so it's not a perfect road, but it's getting us where we need to go, right? And he's like, for sure. And I said, well, I don't like the paint. I think the paint's too dim. I can't see clearly. I want you to build me another road. It needs to go to the same location, but it needs to be my road, and I'm the one who can be on it, and I'll only choose who can come in and ride on my road. And then let's say, one of my daughters wants a different road, and we build a different road because she wants a different road. And Mr. Lemon already knows the cost of what building all these individual roads would be, and they're all going to the same destination. No taxpayer would be okay with that. We would think that was pure insanity. But we do that with our public dollars with schools. I don't like this school, so I want to build a different school. Okay, that makes sense. You want to improve something. You could also improve something by being invested and involved in your public school. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to build you a school that only you and the people that you guys want to get in, except for this school has to take everyone, that you guys can pick and choose. And it just drives me insane that taxpayers are not angry to the point of voting out the people in the legislature who are making these choices and making money off of these choices. So that's my story, that's my metaphor. It's all about roads, and taxpayers want to build 500 roads to go to the same destination. So, all right, now we can move to Royal Blue. We are looking at Royal Blue for improving opportunities and outcomes for all students, and this seems very apropos. Anybody want to weigh in on this one? Miss Yours.
I'm still, of course, all, right? But I'm still sticking with repeal and replace Prop 203 with research-based bilingual education, reform English language learner models of instruction to increase integration of English learners and give schools flexibility and resources to administer them. I'm channeling my Monica Trejo here, okay? And the reason being is the way we have changed the rules for our English language learners and the obstacles that we've actually put into place rather than the encouragement that we're able to give to learn is actually getting out of hand and ridiculous. And I feel that it's somewhat, Dr. Driscoll, you could probably tell me, like, this isn't at all. Like, there's like 700 bullet points under this that would make that way. But the way that we're treating a group of people who have a second language in this country, no matter the second language, is actually appalling to my friends who are in other countries, because they embrace multiple languages and they embrace the cultural aspect and they embrace a different, when I lived over in France, they were so excited to have me in class because they wanted to learn from me. They wanted to learn English. They wanted to understand if I rode a horse to school because I live in Arizona. There are some things that I think we're stifling and we're encouraging some students to not be able to learn. And I feel like that goes in here just a bit. And so I'd like to give it my highlight again.
All right, Ms. Yours, I've noted that. Anybody else for Royal Blue? Mr. Terry.
Are we on the second page? Mine's purple.
It's purple. Second top.
Okay. Okay.
That's why I said Royal Blue.
Okay, all right. I have circled on this one, second from the end, support legislation and access to funding that would allow districts to offer school meals to all students free of charge. As much as I agree with everything you just said, Mrs. Ewers, our ELL students need to eat too. And so I'm just thinking of what's more important to me. That's what it is to me.
Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, the second one that we chose last year, I would agree with that. The current state superintendent is against all forms of bilingual education, and I think some kids need that. And the people in our community have supported that, so I think we need to support it as well. Thank you.
And Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. I like the repeal and replace Prop 203, but I also want to really emphasize Mr. Thierry's point of the school meals position. It's a lot of work for our school district to get the funding that we have to offer the school meals that we have, and I just think that should be the basis for all school districts everywhere. I mean, it's just absurd that we have kids on school campuses that don't get fed, so.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and I think Tempe Elementary's done an excellent job meeting everybody's needs for eating, but that's because they fought for our kids, not because anybody was saying, hey, this is important that all kids eat. So I agree with everybody here on those two. I think my cynicism really heightened on this category because I was like, well, that'll never happen. And I defaulted to redefine the role and purpose of standardized testing and develop meaningful assessments and other measurable outcomes. And the reason why I ended with that one is because it's one of the biggest complaints of students and parents. It is something that private schools and homeschoolers are allowed to do differently. And if we're talking about an even playing field, we should talk about even how we assess. That should be an even playing field, and we should, in my opinion, look at more holistic education and assessments. Okay, I've noted everybody's. You guys ready to go to, I would say Crayola Red.
I find it fascinating, the colors, the names of the colors that she's saying.
What's that?
I find it fascinating what color you call these.
I did teach preschool for a little while, just so you know.
I would call it bear down red.
You know, and that didn't even come to mind because I went to neutral Arizona University. Okay, I see no lights. Is that because people are laughing or is because?
I want to hear because I have 3.
Mr. Miller, leading the charge.
Thank you, Madam President. The one that we had the last year of opposing legislation to intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally elected school boards. I mean, that is, I don't know, the most basic and broad, I think, of all the categories, but it is, I don't know, the basis really of all the things that we both do here and, I don't know, do everywhere as a school board level. So I don't know. It seems odd to go around it or to, I don't know, pick something else, because then if they start curtailing it, then we can't do anything. So I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, a lot of people think that we set the curricula and we tell the teachers how to teach. And really, it's the state board does that. And here's the curricula, and we have to follow that. And it's very difficult to add additional things into that and or omit any of the curricula that's handed to us. So, and it's constantly being challenged for the last 20 years. So I would still support this.
Which one was that?
That's the second one under the,
Okay, got
yeah, oppose any legislation.
Miss yours? Okay. Ooh. So I went with maintain exclusive local authority over any measure that would propose to consolidate, unify, or restructure school districts. Just because I think that that is a very real possibility as we're talking about decreased population. Miss yours.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to hear you guys speak about this. the way that I'm looking at this category, and maybe it will help us, is that I'm looking at what is the hot potato right now for us. And that's why I did have a star next to what you did, and I had a star with what Eric and Jim said too, and I had a star under ensure local control and flexibility in managing funds and programs within the Arizona constitutional requirements of general and uniform public school system. I think, you guys, this is a toughie. And I also want to mention, the public might not know that the reason why we're doing this is we have people who will lobby on our behalf down at the legislature. And this is what we're telling them Tempe L wants them to concentrate on. The state for the first time has over 4,000 bills. We usually have 2,000 bills that we're going through. And we usually have 80 to 100 education-focused type of bills that are strong. And we have 419 bills that are mostly negative to that. So this is an important process, so I appreciate everyone sitting and listening to us talk through this. So that is my 2 cents. We're at a 2-2 on both of those, so maybe we keep them in the category of 5 and then see what happens as we go up.
Okay, well, I put you on all 3 of those choices.
Great, everybody gets a number. Thank
Well, I
you.
figure in this. All right, let's move on to, I have no idea, Teal. Adequately and equitably funds district schools to the national median per pupil funding. Just so you guys know, I have a highlight by nearly every single bullet point on this one. So we'll let somebody else lead this one. Distracted by the cutie.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I think it's very important to give the districts the authority to provide affordable housing options to faculty and staff based upon the local housing market. We have a lot of open property without kids on them, and they're in neighborhoods, and that's where you put houses, is in neighborhoods. And I think we need some authority to do that. We shouldn't, by state law, only limit rural school districts too far away from somewhere else. They could do this, and so they bring in trailers. And, but the legislature did the same thing with the little casitas or the additional housing units on property. So there are people trying to do this, so I don't know why we can't be part of that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. I've noted that. Gentleman on the end. Mr. Terry.
Yeah, this is the biggest one. This is like the main course portion of the menu, isn't it? Most of the options here. I mean, there's some of these that jump out at me. The first one on the far right, the fully fund, full-day kindergarten. That is just so big. I mean, kindergarten was just not serious when I was in kindergarten. It was a half a day. We had multiple recesses. There was nap time. Remember those little stackable white cots? You know, and now we have like reading standards for it's crazy what we do in kindergarten now. And I don't think the public knows that just individual districts have to pay for that. The state gives us a certain amount of money, but we really choose to fund full-day kindergarten, and it'd be great if that were just something that every district could do. Again, I don't know if that's enough to replace one of these things that we have in here, but it is certainly something that jumps out at me in that category. When I compare that to, for instance, repealing the aggregate expenditure limit via legislative referral to the voters, I might not know enough about what that sentence means to want to keep that over fully funding full-day kindergarten. So can we talk about that just a little bit?
I think that's a great question. Dr. Driscoll.
I don't know the answer to that, no. So basically what goes on is they call it the AEL aggregate expenditure limit. In the state, in the Constitution says that the state can fund education to a certain number. And if we go over that number, they're not supposed to fund. So for the last, I want to say 3 years, the legislature has to pass a bill to let us go over that number, the aggregated expenditure limit. Where it came into play is, I want to say 301. When the voters approved 301, we were good. But then when 301 went away and the state said, we're going to take that over, that put us over that aggregate expenditure limit. And so you basically can take, I think it's like 10%, it's about 10% of our funding would go away because we're over that limit. So when we were 3 years ago, when this was a big thing, we basically would run out of money or couldn't pay our folks by the third quarter because we wouldn't have access to the money that is already there. So this is not new money. This is not anything additional. This is the money that already is given to districts based on our student enrollment and stuff like that. But because that number is capped by the state saying in the Constitution that it can be this limit, you can't get access to it. So that's where it's a big deal why people are saying take it to the public, because if the voters vote and say, hey, we want to repeal that constitutional statute, then we wouldn't run into this where we run out of money. The state has a funding formula. They would fund the schools based on that funding formula. But because of the aggregate expenditure limit in the Constitution, we have to get basically the legislature to vote to say, yes, we can go over that. And they've been doing that the last 3 years. I think last year they voted for it to be 2 years, so we don't have to go through it this year. Next year, it would come back to where if they don't vote it, we would run in probably like March, we would run where the district wouldn't have the funding to pay any of our things. So like all our employees, all those checks, we would not be able to pay because we wouldn't be able to access the money that is already there for us that the state says based on the funding formula is there. But because of that aggregate expenditure limit statute in the Constitution, we wouldn't go over there. And it's like how much of the state budget can be geared to public education is the thing. So it's it's all of us. And so for the last 3 years, every year, this is the big thing that they play as a bargaining chip. I don't want to say to be truth, but it's how ESAs got expanded. It was one of the bargaining chips. It's how we have different weights right now. So we get a poverty weight that's a one-time funding that could go away. We get a special education weight that they put into the funding formula, but those are all one time or 1 year, and they have to get voted on each year. They can take that away, but that was part of it. In passing that, we gave them voucher expansion. They gave us the aggregate expenditure limit, and we got one-time funding. But every year we have to come back to this because every year we're over that because of Prop 301 going away as a voter mandated, and the state taking that in. That money made us go over that aggregate expenditure limit. And Mr. Miller is nodding, so I hope I'm saying that kind of correct.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Driscoll. Yeah, it's not a revenue thing, it's a spending thing. So we already have the money. The voters passed our ability to have like the bonds, the overrides, all the stuff. We have the taxing formula based on the enrollment that we have. It's an expenditure limit. They just say, hey, no matter how many kids you have, you can only spend this much money. And so it's just an artificial cap on the amount of money we're allowed to spend for, a formula based on something that they set in the 80s, the 1980s. You can only spend this much money. No matter how much money you have, you can only spend this much money, which is why it would be like a 10% shave for us. We have the money, we just can't spend it. And so that's why it's try to repeal the constitutional, aggregate expenditure limit it's just,
So this is saying our voters want us to spend money, but the state legislature is saying no.
Yeah, and that's why, I was trying to get across that it's not a tax, because we already have the tax. We're already collecting the money. We have the money. We just can't spend it, and suddenly we would just be like, is the school year over? I don't know. Like, can't give anybody any money.
And if we could spend this money, we could fund
do all
our
the
own
stuff.
full-day kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I wouldn't even say you can fund all-day kindergarten, because that doesn't, it literally is the money that they give us right now, that we have the budget. The cap, I think our MNO is 71 million. The cap would say that really you could only spend 63. So even though we have the students based on the funding formula that generate us to have 71 million, because the expenditure limits is there, you could only get 63, which means we get to 63 at whatever point, we can't spend any more, and we can't pay for anything. And that's the big crux of it. The money is already there. It is not new money. It is not anything that they're having to do additional. It's based on the funding formula that the state has set. But because in 1980, they put this statute in, it's in the Constitution, and where it really came to head is when Prop 301 went away from a voter mandated to the state taking it. That's what drew us over. They said, nope, you have to calculate that money into that aggregate expenditure limit, and it's about a 10% for districts across the state. And so that number for us, if you said our MNO was 70 million, it's about 7 million. In Mesa Public Schools, it was like 55 million. That is already there. There's no additional money. We're not even talking about the dead money. That's a whole nother thing. This is money that is already there based on the funding formula, and it changes every year based on your student enrollment. You get more students, you get more money, but it's capped. And so every year, if the legislator doesn't vote to repeal it or vote to extend it and say, yep, we can go over it, in March, pretty much every district would be out of money. And so you couldn't pay like all your employees, you couldn't pay for transportation, food, because you can't access that money. We get the money that, I want to say the county treasurer gives us the money that comes out, and we get that and we pay our checks. We wouldn't have access to it. And it's no additional money. So it's not like they're giving us access to more money. It is the money that is already allocated to us based on the state's funding formula in the first place.
Okay, so we just try to tie a bow around this. So I had fully fund, full-day kindergarten circled as the top priority in this category. It sounds like if we're repealing this expenditure limit, that we could potentially do that and more. We could do what we wanted with that money. Maybe it's the same amount of money, maybe it's less. But what I'm not going to hold my breath to get more money from the state. So it sounds like if I circle fully fund, full-day kindergarten, that's asking them for more money.
Yes.
And I have no hope of that happening. So the way to be able to spend more money seems like we want to repeal this expenditure limit. Is that?
And I would say not spend more money, just spend the money that is actually allocated to us, yeah. And then with kindergarten, what I always tell the public is, if we have 1,000 kindergartners, we get paid for 500. So we get half the funding, and then the district pays the other 500 for those 500 students, so.
Ms. Ewers, you wanted to speak about this topic?
Yeah, so I am so grateful, Ray, that you brought this up. One of my business partners and I were having some in-depth conversation about education, and as we were going through it, he was like, that can't be true. I'm going to ask somebody else. That can't be true. This is one of them that he said that can't be true. I want to give you an example. Eric helped me because you were at the Maricopa County Department of Education at the time. It was 3 years ago, because we got a 2-year buy on this AEL. So 3 years ago, we came really close in March to having all met. Everybody had spent up to that aggregate expenditure limit that was developed in 1980, and the state said, we don't fund education any more than this, right? Literally, we were afraid down to 4 or 5 days that we weren't going to have payroll, and Payson, and specifically Payson, was going to be hit the hardest. These rural, smaller districts, but Payson, I remember looking at it and just wanting to throw up as I saw it. They were going to have to close the school. It was done. It was over. We at least had something here, but there was going to be teachers who were not going to get paid. They use this, yes, staff, all staff. They use this at the end of negotiating budget stuff too, to get everybody riled up and like have this last minute thing. And personally, it's playing with our children's future, and it's wrong. But it happened, and we got a buy. We got this 2-year buy on it, where we haven't had to have the legislature say, okay, we are going to allow us to go over that expenditure limit this year. We are now going to be coming back to that. And in February, March, we may be hearing Mr. Thompson say, okay, everyone, we're waiting for the state legislature, but I'll just let you know, maybe after March, no one's going to get paid. So that's why it's become like and it's so complicated. So I'm so grateful that you brought it up, because people can't imagine that that's the way that we would fund our schools, having it that education is actually something that we put into the state constitution. It's just unimaginable. So thank you for being vulnerable and allowing us to talk through this and say, I don't get it, because it's not something that we should be all getting. It shouldn't even be in discussion, but, so I'm going to add one to that.
Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me speak again. You know, I've always supported funding all-day kindergarten, and it's just been kind of like pushing a rope up a hill. And because the people that make the financial decisions in the legislature have come from a different period of time in different places. And that's unfortunate. The other issue on repeal the constitutional aggregate spending limit, it is a bargaining chip. But to get another year or get 2 years or say, well, we'll let the voters decide, you know, 4 years down the line or whatever it happens to be, it takes away the energy for the other important thing about kids. And I think that's the reason the people in the legislature continue to do this nickel and dime stuff on it. So all the energy is spent on, well, give us one more year. And but, you know, back in the 80s when it, you know, that sounded good because there was other ways to fund schools. There wasn't vouchers or or the tax credits, I think, back in the 80s. So it made sense in those times, but not anymore. And I would support that.
So, Mr. Miller, I don't know that I heard your, okay.
Thank you, Madam President. For me, the AEL repeal, and then I would just like to say the fully funding kindergarten would be my second priority of this list. Full disclosure, I was a PM kindergarten kid. And believe it or not, I do remember going into first grade being really mad at my mom that it was in the morning. I didn't believe her that school started in the morning. I thought she convinced them. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I've never been a morning person. That's just a true fact about me.
It's public school's fault.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so I have everybody's choices. For me, for the till section, I am also going with the AEL. And for me, the main reason is I've actually had a situation where I was given a paycheck and got close to Christmas time, which for us and our family is a big deal. And I was the only breadwinner. And I'll just say the district. The district not this one. The district contacted me and let me know that they had miswritten my contract and, excuse me, the contract was correct. They had done the paycheck incorrect and I had to give back that money before the end of that year, which meant they took it all out of those 2 paychecks and it devastated us. And then it happened the next year. And I thought, that's what this feels like to me. They gave me the money. I have it literally not sitting in the bank. I have it already allocated to the bills I needed to pay. And then I had to figure out how to give it back. And that's exactly what we've done. We've figured out what we need to pay for. And then it's like, oh, wait, no, never mind. And it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. All right, so let's go through.
We have 5.
Yeah, 5 on that one.
We have them.
No, we don't.
We have 5 toppers.
Oh, just go, well, I wanted to, so the ones that were all 5, I wanted to just say, okay, that's what we have. So the first one would be the repeal the constitutional aggregate expenditure limit. Okay?
Yep.
The second one is in the Sienna section, the repeal any program that gives funds for private schools vouchers
Yep.
and prevent any future expansion.
And those are the 2 5s.
Those are the 2 5s. Then I wanted us to look at the 2 3s. So the first 3 is the fully fund, full-day kindergarten, which honestly, in my 8 years on the board, that has been on it every single year, and it's like pushing a rope uphill. That's exactly right. And then the second three is oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally elected school boards, including their authority to approve curriculum. That's in the Crayola red. Okay, so out of those two, does anybody feel like they want to change their vote? These are the second and third and fourth top vote winners. Or are those just the winners?
We have one more.
Oh, do we have another three?
Yep, we have a 3 on second page, purple.
Which one's
Repeal
three?
and replace.
Oh, I only got two on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
I got me, Jim, and Eric.
Oh,
So that's your 5th, and you're done.
okay. So we just want to go with those three? Do you want me to go over them again?
Yeah, please.
Okay. First one in teal, repeal the aggregate expenditure limit. The second one, in the same category, fully fund full-day kindergarten. The third one in Crayola red is oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of school boards. The fourth one is in the royal blue, repeal and replace Prop 203 with research-based bilingual education. And the last one is in Sienna, repeal any program that gives funds for private schools, vouchers, and prevent future expansion. We're all good? All right, we're done. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, we're done. We're just walking out of here. All right. Ms. Years has something to say, and then
So
would you like to make a
I'm going to
motion?
encourage all of us, because I forget to do this every year, to keep this piece of paper, so whoever is nominated to represent us at state, when we go and we have this, when we go and we represent ourselves, it does help to have your own notes. Brittany is always so good about saying, hey, reminder, this is what you guys said. But I can say, Jim, Eric, blah, 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 blah. It just helps. So whoever is the lucky person that gets to do that this year, just make sure you kind of keep it handy, put it in a place where you might be able to find it.
I think since you're putting it in a place where you might want to find it.
No,
I-
don't go there.
Okay. It's not an item for action or discussion. Okay, may I have a motion on the 5 legislative priorities we've identified?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes unanimously. Good job, good conversation, everyone, thank you. All right, 602, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a schedule of governing board meetings for the 26-27 school year. To provide some anticipatory set to this, I have gone through the board meetings and made sure that we had, one request that I do recall us having is that we would not have a board meeting on the scheduled spring break, so that staff could have more flexibility on when they were here, and that is true. March 3rd and March 24th are the not bookends, but they, thank you. They're the bread of the sandwich for spring break. All right. So, any discussion beyond that? And if not, may I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the new schedule of governing board meetings for 2026, 2027. It was brought to my attention by a community member this weekend at Kiwanis Park that sometimes it's not good to not have meetings on the second Tuesday or the second Wednesday and the third or the fourth Wednesday and blah, 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 and that it's not continuous and all of that. And I would agree because you want to have repetition for people to be reminded. But at the same time, we now have a break schedule that has changed that quite a bit. And I didn't like the idea that we had a school board meeting when we didn't have families and teachers around who could be able to attend. So I am really pro this new change that we made. And I think it's right for our staff to be able to also have their vacation. So that's my motion. I accept it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Sewers and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Aye. Aye, item passes unanimously. All right, do we have any reports of standing committees for 701? We do, all right. Cliff notes? No? Oh, okay.
You're not going to have to listen to me too much. First of all, I want to thank everyone. Our entire trust committee was here last Friday, and we were able to go over what we get to budget for healthcare. We were able to go over the increased costs that we have, which are astronomical. We also were able to go over the amount of claims that we have and what we are doing to help prevent the costs that are coming against the plan. And I want to congratulate all of our staff, all of our teachers. We have one of the smallest increases in cost due to people being very conscious about how they utilize their program. They have now been asking, because we can see it for generic, they have been asking to do preventative health care. Thanks to Sandra, there's all types of ways, and we reward it for you to stay healthy. We want you to go get checked to find out if there is something that we can help you with. We don't want you not to and it be something bigger. So I want to congratulate our staff for doing, you can see it, right, guys? It's on the chart. You can see that people are really paying attention to it because we want to continue to offer a free plan and other plans if our staff chooses to use them. We want to have that flexibility, and that's a right that we'd like to continue to have. So I would like to ask Josh if you would give us an update on some of the discussions that we had, and possibly, my whole reason for you speaking is that I want everybody to understand that Sandra, who goes out to all of our districts, and Josh and Mr. McGinney, they go in and they listen. We are listening to our staff and our teachers. And so I'm going to hand this over because I want them to know they're being heard.
Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Driscoll. One of the things that we came through, we're lucky to have an organization like the Trust where we get to meet together in the Trust Board and talk about our, those insurance pieces. One of the things that we discussed was those rates and what those will look like for next year. Those are going to come to you as a board in a package when we go through IBN, so I'm not going to discuss all those pieces right now. But one of the things that we did discuss that came to you today was the RFP for basic voluntary life, short-term disability, and flexible spending accounts, all of which we went out to really make sure we could find the best options for our employees and our stakeholders in Tempe. And we're really happy with the vendors that we have for those. So the costs have been cut on many of those, and so we're really happy about that. We were given some better rates on a couple of these areas that I think are going to benefit staff members. And then with the basic life that we went out with Oaks that you approved today, that's going to allow us to do an open enrollment for everyone. So if someone didn't have that voluntary life before, they're going to be able to enroll in that without having to do those medical questions and at least the basic level. So something that people haven't been able to participate in before, now that we're going to be able to do a full open enrollment with that is really good for that. Sandy does a whole lot of that work to make sure we're hearing folks. So when you get all of the recommendations, when we bring you all those rate changes and those possible plan design changes that come before you, part of that is going to be some added benefits for some of our staff members that we think are going to be really beneficial for them. So we're really happy that despite having a budget deficit of 7.5, we've been able to find creative ways to support staff members, whether that's through health insurance or other options, just to make sure that although we're seeing these things happen with the district, that we're able to kind of celebrate those wins when we can get them in options like this for our health insurance. So yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, that was pretty great. Thanks, Ms. Ewers.
You're welcome.
Okay, 801, board members' points of information. Would anybody like to start? Mr. Thierry, go ahead.
I just want to say it's great to hear the mouths of babes in the room. They say if your church isn't crying, it's dying. So that's it. Thanks.
I was able to attend the Invention Convention, ASU, and I did blow up Dr. Driscoll's phone. I am guilty, and I kind of did it on purpose because as I was sitting there, there was over 50 districts that participated. I didn't count the exact number, but it was a long page. It was a big page. And no joke, you guys, as awards came up, Tempe Elementary, Tempe Elementary. And people, I'm sure you could hear me screaming. They were like, what is her deal with Tempe Elementary? Because I was like, yay, Tempe! And we actually won the Spark Award for being the district with the most participation in those students who qualified. And we were competing against your traditional public schools, your charters, and your private schools. So I don't want to make that part of the conversation, but I want you to understand that our kids and what we're doing and how we're reimagining education, I'm getting to see when we go and do these events. And it was very multicultural. We had Native American inventions, and they were mind-blowing of how they were going to change rural communities and what they were going to do to help it. And we had some cultural inventions where they were there to teach other students about the importance of their culture and representing things. For instance, like a Ramadan, what does that mean? And having a tool to do that. These kids are so aware. And I want to thank ASU for doing this. Like it's, they didn't have as much participation last year, and it just blew up this year. And then Tempe Elementary, I just couldn't, every 5 seconds I was like, and here's another one. And I was sending them a text. So bravo, the parents, thank you parents, because there's no bus that we had to get them to ASU on Saturday. There was no like extra funding. This had to do with our teachers who, by the way, our teachers went, one of them being Mr. V, went and set up for any student who couldn't be there or students who had to be late because of soccer or another program they were doing. He set up all their projects so that they were ready and so they could compete. So it takes an army to do things like this, and the Army showed up for Tempe Elementary, and we should all be really proud of what our kids did. So there's some pretty cool, inventive stuff, and we might be, like, Tempe L might be on Shark Tank soon with, like, we could have our own Shark Tank show. Might be a way to fund schools. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ewers. Thank you to the board and Dr. Driscoll and staff for picking up the slack for me the last couple of meetings. Besides a family vacation, I was in DC for work for the National Grants Management Association annual grants training, just to make sure we have plenty of acronyms all slammed together. It was one of the best conferences I've ever been to that was specific to just grants, which is rare in my world, and got to meet people from all over different sectors, healthcare, fire, state, federal. It was wonderful, and learned what I was doing wrong and what I needed to do more of that was right, and it was great. So now that it's good timing since funding is dropped for grants, I was glad I had it before that all happened. Then wanted to remind everybody that testing season is upon us. Please have your children go to bed and get a good night's rest. And please make sure that they either eat at your house before they leave or that they get breakfast as soon as they get to school. It's really hard to focus for that long if your stomach is grumbly. And last but not least for me, there was a parent survey that went out for like culture climate, right? So take a few minutes and fill that out. It helps us with knowing where we can improve and what, again, we need to do more of that we're doing right. And you know how you feel. We want everybody to get their needs met, and that's what surveys help us do. All right, so moving on to 901, spring holiday is Friday, April 3rd. All Tempe elementary schools and district offices will be closed. The East Valley School Board Consortium will take place on Monday, April 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Chandler Unified School District Governing Board Room. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting will take place on Wednesday, April 15th at 7 p.m. with a study session starting at 5 p.m. here in the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom. The Tempe Diablos Excellence in Education Awards ceremony, which we know Brittany does a ton for, will be Thursday, May 7th at 7 p.m. It is a good lineup of staff members. That was exciting to see. In the showroom at the Wild Horse Pass. And the Tempe Elementary School's retirement reception will be Wednesday, May 13th at 6 p.m. at McCamey Academy of International Studies. Item 1001, may I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Mr. Terry and seconded by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.